Okay. So, hey Matt, will you check my camera real quick, just make sure it's recording? Beautiful. All right, so this is March 9th, 2015, in Course in Miracles. And we are in chapter 4 of the original edition, and we are starting in the paragraph that says, you who identify with your egos. All right, so I guess it's going to be talking about us for a little bit. So let's see what it has to say about us. You who identify with your egos, which is really just your fearful mind, that's all the ego is, the fearful mind, the human mind. You who identify with your human mind, your fearful mind, you guys cannot believe that God loves you. Oh, okay. So, in other words, when I hear about the love that my creative source has for me, it's hard to relate to. I cannot believe that my creative source feels that way about me. When I hear, and that's what the Course is full of. The Course is full of how your creative source feels about you, the love that your Creator has for you. And it's full of it. And sometimes those are the hardest sections in the Course to relate to. It's like, it's so out there that it doesn't really hit us. And the Course explains the reason why those sections don't really grab you sometimes, like the times when it's just talking about the ego, is because we cannot understand. What does it say? He says, we cannot believe that God loves us. Right? Why is that we cannot believe that God loves us? Isn't that interesting? Why is it hard to believe that I am loved unconditionally? He says the reason why it's difficult for us, or we cannot believe that God loves us, is because we don't love what we made. We don't love what we made, and what we made doesn't love us. Aha. Okay. Now that makes sense. So what does that mean? I don't love what I made, which is what? My ego. And so my ego doesn't love me. All right? Now, we've been talking through this section about the ego. It's like the ego anatomy section. It's like Ego 101. So we were talking last week, why is it that we have a part of us that is always sabotaging? Always, just when things start to get good, there's a part of us that sabotages. Anybody aware of that expert inner saboteur within them? Just when it starts getting good and I start feeling good, then the next thing I know, crash. Or I do something stupid. It was going so great, and then I had to do something really dumb. Okay? We've been talking about the part of us that doesn't love us. And it's a really important concept in the Course. There's this thing called the ego the Course talks about. And the ego is the belief system that we've adopted that's in our mind that doesn't love us. So just that idea right there is very unique to the Course and very crucial. There is a belief system within us that we've adopted that doesn't love us. What does that mean? That means at every turn, it's trying to undermine our peace, our joy, our abundance, and basically just our life itself. All right? So there's a part that doesn't love us. Now, it's important to remember this and to get to know, to understand this aspect of our belief system, because if you don't know about it and you don't understand it and you don't know its voice, then when it speaks to you, you will listen and you will do what it says, and it always gives you bad advice. It always tells you to do the very opposite of the thing that'll keep you safe and make you happy and bring you peace and give you an experience of love that lasts. It will always tell you the opposite. It will always give you bad advice. Why? Because it doesn't love you. Oh, you know, sometimes our patterns and our sabotaging patterns seem so mysterious to us. do I do that? Why do I always pick people like that? Why do I always pick jobs like that? Why do I always do things to my body that hurt my body? Why? It seems so mysterious, right? Sometimes, why is that? I really want to be happy. I really want to do well. Why is it? What is going on? It's because there's a part of us that does not love us, which means there's a part of us that hates us. And then, well, why is that? This explains it. We made the ego out, we did not make the ego in love. Right? It says, we don't love what we made, and so it does not love us. I don't love the ego, the fearful mind I made, and so my ego doesn't love me. I made it out of fear. Guess what it gives me? Fear, hate. And so, because what I made was not made out of love, and I don't love it, and it doesn't love me, I cannot even conceive of a creator who loves me, because I don't love what I made, and it doesn't love me. Does that make sense? Does that explain, doesn't that explain why the ego is so cruel and so consistent? Okay? That's how it happened, that there's something within me that's always sabotaging, always seeming to attack. Somebody tells me they love me, somebody tells me I'm wonderful, and it's hard to hear. I can't even barely take a compliment, much less believe that my Creator has unconditional love for me. I can't even take a compliment. Somebody says, you're so wonderful. Oh, I really appreciate you. I'm like, oh, please, go. Interrupt, give excuses. You know how we are. Can't barely take. And if somebody is too loving, what happens? Well, I just don't trust them. I think they must be crazy. Somebody's too loving and I become suspicious. Somebody acknowledges me and I poo-poo it. I'm like, oh, well, you should see the way I normally am. Oh, well, I was just having a good day. Right? Why is that? That's because my ego, I cannot conceive of that kind of love. I can't conceive of being unconditionally loved because I have not given it. And what I've made doesn't give it to me. Okay? So that explains why the ego is as cruel and mean as it is. Wouldn't you say? All right. Then it says, being made out of the denial of the Father or the creative source, the ego has no allegiance to its own maker. Okay? I made my ego out of denial of God. God who? I don't need God. I don't need God. Me. I am God. The ego was made out of me trying to be God. And so, since my ego was made out of denial of my creative source, what I made has no allegiance to me, its creative source. Wow. So there's a part of us that has no allegiance to us. My ego has no allegiance to me. My ego's not like, well, she's my creative source, so, I gotta be on her side, gotta help her out sometimes. My ego is not like that. Remember, the ego is like a parasite who is feeding, who is killing its host, even as the host is hosting it. That's the ego. It's like a parasite. The parasite wasn't made out of love, and the parasite does not love its host. That's why, to me, that the metaphor of the parasite is the perfect metaphor for the ego. Okay? So we need to know the truth about this thing that we made, this belief system that we made, this parasite that we made that doesn't have allegiance to us, doesn't love us, and we need to know that. So that when it speaks, we can go, no, I'm not going to take your advice. I'm not going to take the advice of something that doesn't have any allegiance to me and doesn't love me. That was made out of my fear. Okay? All right. Then it says, And so that's why you cannot conceive of the real, which means lasting, relationship that exists between God, our creative source, and God's souls, that's us, because of the hatred we have for the self we have made. And so, why is it I can't conceive of the real relationship I have with my creative source? Because of what? The hatred I have for the self I made. I don't love the self I made. I don't love myself. I don't love the self I made. And so I can't even conceive of the real relationship between me and my creative source. Interesting. Okay. That's why when the Course talks about the relationship between us and our creative source, it's just kind of out, it's like, that's nice, that's lovely, that's pretty, but it doesn't hit me here. It doesn't go, oh, yes, I'm in a relationship, I am in a real and lasting relationship with the creative source of the universe that loves me unconditionally. Yes! If you really could understand the kind of relationship that you're in with your creative source, you'd be ecstatic. You wouldn't be worrying about the things you're worried about. You wouldn't be afraid. You wouldn't be angry. You wouldn't be upset when somebody did not fulfill your script. You wouldn't be mad and upset when something didn't go your way during the day. You wouldn't be afraid of loss. You wouldn't believe in lack. You wouldn't be afraid of death. If you really understood the real relationship you are in with your creative source. If you really understood the love your creative source has for you and the real relationship, meaning the love that's moving between you guys all the time, then you wouldn't ever be afraid. Wow. Interesting. And so apparently that is the core of this, that's the goal of this curriculum, is that we remember, my dear God, I am in a real and lasting relationship with my creative source. Who knew? That's the whole point. Because remember, what was the one problem that we have? Where did the whole hot mess we call Earth begin? Separateness. I am separate. I am not one with my creative source. We got divorced. I ran away from home. First I thought that God kicked me out of heaven, but then the Course reminded me that actually I ran away from home with a big to you, God. Right? And then projected it onto God. I conveniently forgot that I told God, screw you, I'm out of here, like Cartman. And conveniently forgot that and projected it onto God and said, God kicked me out. The bastard. He kicked me out of the garden just for wanting to have a little bit of knowledge. That was a total projection. That's a total projection, right? And we're still making that projection, P.S. Wow. So remembering that relationship that we are in now, that is real, which means lasting, is the whole point here. Because when we remember that, the ego is over. The ego is gone. Because the ego is the idea that we've been separated from our source. The ego is the whole idea, I'm not in a real and lasting relationship with my creative source. I am my creative source. I am God. I know what's best for me. I will decide everything. I know what I need. I know my own best interest. I know what my reality is, and I know what it is for everybody else. And the person who lets me decide that for them, that's the one that loves me. That's the one I'll be in a relationship with. All right. Any questions about that? Okay.
A lot of this is it's a case of mistaken identity.
Yes.
We made the ego and then we thought that was us. And we're totally out of touch with what God created, the real us.
That's right. Exactly.
So a lot of this is trying to get us back where we can see that, no, this is you, not that.
Right.
'Cause
Exactly.
We're totally removed ourselves from that.
Exactly. And most of us, until we come to the Course, do not understand that there is a part of us that hates us, right? First of all, it seems negative. That's one of the reasons why people are like, the Course in Miracles is so negative. I don't like the Course in Miracles. I would rather do something that's a lot more positive, because Course in Miracles tells me about the self-hatred that's in there, that I have been trying to be in denial about for a long time by thinking positively. And so the Course in Miracles is a curriculum that's like, I tell you, where all the conflict and the pain and the suffering and the grievances and all the difficulties and the lack that you experience, it comes from self-hatred, right? Not many spiritual curriculums say that. But that is where it comes from. There is a part of us that we made out of a lack of love, and so it doesn't love us. And that's what, the problems and the conflict aren't coming from life. Well, life sucks and then you die. The difficulties in life isn't coming from life. That's not the way life is. That's not the way the universe is. There's no lack in the universe. There's no conflict in reality. We put it there because there's a part of us that hates us, which means is trying to undermine our abundance and our power and our joy all the time. That has no allegiance to us at all. You would think that the ego would be like, well, since you made me and since I'm dependent on you, well, I'll give you a break every once in a while. But it's not like that. It doesn't have any allegiance to us, right? And so we need to learn about this aspect of our belief system so that we can bring it for correction.
And this self-hatred is really, if our real self is our spirit, what God created, what we really hate is
the self we made.
What we think we are.
That's exactly right. The self we made, which is the ego and the body. That's the self we made. Okay. He says, you can't conceive of the real relationship which exists between your creative source and God's souls because of the hatred you have for the self you have made. And then we project onto our own idea of ourself, the ego, the will to separate. Okay? In other words, we blame it on the ego. You blame your ego for the hatred, and then what? And then that projection onto your ego conflicts with the love you feel for the self you made because you made it. Okay, hold that thought. I'm just going to explain this thought, and then I'll hold that question. Okay, so here's the deal. I've made my ego, I made it out of fear and hatred, so it doesn't love me, and it fears me, right? It says, and then I blame my ego. Dang ego, damn ego, when really I am the one who made the ego. What does he say? I project onto the ego my desire to be separate from God. The ego made me separate from God. My ego made me afraid. My ego did this to me. My ego did this to me. So I'm blaming my ego for my problems. But he says, but this blaming of my ego and the hating of my ego really conflicts with the love I feel for my ego. Interesting. And then why is it that I have love for the self I made, for that ego? Why is it? Because I made it. That's why I hate my ego, because I blame it for all the problems, but I also love it because it's mine. Right? It's interesting. So I have like this hateful love for my ego. Right? So then it says, as a matter of fact, no human love is without this ambivalence. I hate it, but I love it because I made it. Like, you know how like we are with our problems? Oh, I hate this problem. I hate this job. I hate it. I hate this relationship that I made. But I can't let it go. I can't let it go. I hate my body, but I can't let it go. Okay? Because why? Because I love it because it's mine. I hate this problem. Okay, get rid of it. No! Why? Because it's mine. Anybody recognize that? Something that we have conflict and fear and anger and struggle with, and somebody goes, well, just quit that job, or just end that relationship. Oh, no, I can't do that. Why?
We don't know when we're going to be able to get rid of it.
Exactly. And because we really love it. You know, you hear somebody talking about their problem and they complain about it, they complain, always complaining about it, always complaining about their job, or always complaining about the relationship, or always complaining about the body. And then you're like, well, just do something else. And like, they act offended. Well, you know. And then you realize they don't really want to let it go. That's curious. They're always complaining about it. Always seems to be hurting them. They're never satisfied with it. But when you remind them that they have another choice, they could just let it go, they won't do it. They defend. What's up with that? Oh, they really love it. They hate it. But they love it. Have you ever had that experience about anything? Whether it be a relationship or a condition or a job. You know, you complain about it all the time. But then, so when the suggestion comes up of leaving it behind, you're like, heck no.
It's that love-hate relationship.
Can't live with it, can't live with it.
That's right.
Can't live with it,
Can't live with them, can't live without them. Exactly. And he calls this kind of love a love, he says, there's no human love without this ambivalence. What's an ambivalence? I hate it. God, it doesn't make me happy, but I can't let it go. I can't, because it's mine. I made it. It's my little pet, right? My pet ego. Now, all human love, no human love is without the love-hate thing, that ambivalence. No human love is without conflict, right? In other words, you know, human love we don't experience loving somebody without also hating them sometimes. Have you ever noticed? You only hate the ones you love. Ew. God, who made that reality up? No human love is without that ambivalence. Interesting. I hate it, but I love it because I made it, because it's mine. Wow. And since no ego has experienced love without ambivalence, the concept of love without hate is beyond your ego's understanding. We cannot even, I've never experienced a love without hate, without sometimes either being irritated by that person or that thing, or all the way up to intense rage. I've never experienced love without conflict, meaning pure love. And so the experience of being loved by my creative source with no hatred, no anger, no demands, no expectations, not even any irritation, is absolutely a concept beyond my understanding. Right? So that's why he's saying, I cannot understand the love that God has for me. I cannot understand the kind of relationship that I am in with my creative source. Because I can't understand love without hate. You know, to me, they go together. And the Course says, that's insane. Because they are opposites, and if they could occur together, they would cancel each other out. Wow. That's interesting. So I've never experienced real love. Interesting. Because I've never experienced love without conflict, or a love that was without ambivalence. Well, that explains a lot right there. Now, I never, ever, 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 never again need to ever believe or say that I was betrayed by love. Ever. Or that love betrayed me. Or that, oh, I had a love and I lost it. I can never, ever again say that. Why is that? Because I have never experienced real love before. I have never experienced a love without hatred. I have never experienced a love without a drive to get. And so, you've never been betrayed by love. You've never lost love. You've just never experienced it yet. Well, isn't that the great news? And the crowd went crazy with ecstasy that they had never been betrayed by love. You know whom you thought betrayed your love for them, remember? Sorry, but you really hadn't given them real love. Neither had they given it to you. What y'all had experienced, according to the Course in Miracles, was a pleasant form of fear. So, because the Course in Miracles says, what changes was never love. You know, the real love, the love that's created by the source of love, is not a love that sometimes you have and sometimes it's taken back. And then it's given back to you and it's taken back when you don't act right. Love, that's not love. Love is something that is unconditional. It doesn't change. It doesn't grow and then wane and grow and wane, and it is not conditional. Now, has anybody ever experienced a love like that before? Or let's say a human love, right? So, in the Course in Miracles says there is no love but God's. There is no love but God's. Love was created by God. God is the source of love. And so, if it's not like the way God loves, then it ain't love. It's something else. It's something else. In the Course we call it fear. The Course we call it a pleasant form of fear. But if you're giving love to, if you're giving, quote, love to somebody, and then you're going to take it back when they don't show up on time, then that's not love. That's a pleasant form of fear. Oh, I have such a pleasant form of fear for you, darling. I'd like to have real love. I would like to have real love. Oh, I can't wait till I really love you. Oh my God, it's going to be so good. But until you can experience a love that is lasting, that is not ambivalent, that is not taken back when your script isn't met, then you are not giving real love. Wow. And wouldn't it be great if we would just say that to each other, and then we wouldn't always be disappointed with each other. We wouldn't pull out that, I thought you loved me, and you loved me, and then you took your love away. Right? All that sense of betrayal that we have with each other, that's because we're deluding ourselves that we're really giving love and really giving and receiving real love. We may as well just start off with, God, I would love to love you with God, like God, and that is my goal. Oh, I can't wait to love you for real with the love of God. It's going to be so good, and I'm working toward that. And I am so sorry for every time that I don't love you like God, which will be often. Maybe today. What if we started our relationships off like that, and what if we spoke to each other like that? Then we would not constantly be, our relationships wouldn't be riddled and torn asunder by grievances. Right? Our grievance is this: you don't love me. You took your love away. You didn't love me good enough. You took your love back. That's our grievances. You didn't give me love. You gave me anger. Right? That's our grievances with each other. But if you know that the people around you, they don't know how to love like God, well, you said you sure as hell didn't love them like God, then there's no grievance. When somebody doesn't treat you well, instead of going, you didn't treat me well, I've been so betrayed, you hurt me, we'd say, well, why am I expecting that that person love me perfectly like God? Why am I having that expectation? Of course they don't know how to love perfectly. I sure don't. And then, where's the grievance? There's no grievance. Now there's only compassion and forgiveness. And then behind that is the real love. So it's really important. It's really important what it's saying right there. It's really important if we want to experience real love. Real, according to the Course, means lasting. Meaning it doesn't go up and down, and here it is, and where to go, and it's not given and taken back. That's love with ambivalence. Right? Okay. Isn't this a lovely topic? So unromantic, isn't it? But to me now, having that kind of conversation with somebody, that's romantic. Oh, they must really love me to realize, to say to me that they don't really know how to love me yet. Oh my God, that's so romantic. That's romantic to me now, because that's real. Real love is behind that. You know. But now when somebody says, oh, I love you totally and completely, and there's nothing that you can do to change that, I get a little nervous. Like, okay, all right, let's just see what happens the first time I don't fulfill your script. All right. Any questions about that? Rob, did you have a question a long time ago?
I don't really see this stuff as negative.
Oh, good. That's why you're here.
I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
what it's supposed to do is to enable you to deal with things in a better way.
Exactly.
If there is hatred with the ego, then once you see that, you can do something to combat that.
That's exactly right.
Or if you see that your love is not true in the way that it should be,
Yes.
concerning fulfilling, having the scripts that you have fulfilled, then,
Right.
You can do something about it. So, I mean, I see it as completely positive.
Me too. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's when I see that there's a part of me that has self-hatred for me and doesn't know how to love without ambivalence, then I can stop wasting time with my feelings of being betrayed and the grievances. Stop wasting my time with that and ask for the correction and ask for what is real love and go for the love that my creative source has for me. And the truth is that the second that I come to feel and know and experience the love that my Creator has for me, I will be able to love for real. That's what will enable me to give real love to people. When I have allowed myself to experience it from my source, then I will be able to give it for real, right? So that's why I'm always working on experiencing and going to and depending on my relationship with my creative source through prayer, through meditation, through forgiveness, through the truth, so that I can give something of real, something that's real to people.
So some of this is trying to re-educate us into what is love and what is fear that we've called love.
Right.
I was thinking that, fear, if it's a form of fear we call love, fear has just got two things, fight or flight.
That's right.
It wants you always to do something,
Yes.
where love feels space.
Yes.
You're not compelled to do anything.
Or get anything.
Yeah. Well, to me, that's a good clue.
You're exactly right.
I feel like I need to do something.
Or to get something.
It's fear.
That's right. That's exactly right.
So it's saying only God's love is real, and the love that we think is love is not even love.
At all. Yes, absolutely. If your love, I put that in quotes for anybody who's listening to this, if your so-called love has a drive to get in it, if it has an expectation in it, if it has a need in it, just know that's not love. And that's all you would need to know. And you don't need to feel bad or guilty about that. All you need to do is say, okay, that's not love, and I would like to experience real love and give real love, and so I'm going to ask my creative source, what is real love? In this situation, what does it mean to love for real? How would I love this person for real, creative source? And then, but you can't ask that question. You can't make that prayer and ask that question until you go, well, it can't be real love if I need them to do something or be something for me and I'm angry if they're not. So first comes the awareness, and then comes the asking or the prayer. Creative source, what does real love know? What would real love see in this person? What would real love say and do and see in this situation, in this relationship? And then you can find out what real love is. And then give that. And then give that.
But would it probably be correct to say that we don't have any experience much with real love, so then we couldn't recognize it.
It's exactly, and when we ask, we are answered. If you are in a situation or a relationship situation, and you recognize that you haven't given real love because of the drive to get or the need or the expectation, and you ask what real love knows and sees in that situation, you will hear, and you will be able to extend real love. You know, you will hear your creative source say something like, real love sees that that person is you and is grateful for them because they are your Savior. And then you would have real love for them. Real love, truth would show you that about this person. And then you would experience real love, which is recognition and appreciation. That's what real love is. It's recognition and you are myself and I appreciate you. That's real love. Real love doesn't have a I love you and now I need something from you. I love you and now I need you to change for me. And if you loved me, you would change for me. You would do this for me. That is not real love. Real love is just recognition. You are part of me. We are part of God, and I appreciate you. I am grateful for you.
So what I was talking about was the form it takes might surprise us at first.
Yes, absolutely.
If we hang in there a bit,
Yes.
our experience might tell us what it was. But at first you might go, what?
That's right, exactly.
Aren't you really experiencing love in like the shadow of the truth when we're in a body form? I mean, you know, maybe you have an out-of-body experience where you can experience boundless, timeless love. Yet when you're in your body and you're feeling your body, it's really only you can experience like the shadow of love. I mean, it's more like having your ego on a leash and being able to love through your manifestation as a human being, or not as a boundless spiritual entity.
Well, maybe.
Is there a difference?
I mean, here's my thought, is that because God is in your mind, then whatever is in God's mind is also in your own mind. It's there. And you can access that, and you can know that. So maybe you can't experience it 24/7 while you're still in a body, but because God is in your mind and you are not a body, then you can experience the love of God while still experiencing a body.
I think we get glimpses of it,
Yeah.
you know.
Right, well, like when you're in a space of having no need,
Yes.
you know, and you don't have any, there's no grabbing for the future or for the past that needs to be rectified or gotten from the
Right.
future. You're just, at that point, you feel like I have no need.
Exactly. The Course calls it the holy instant.
Right.
You know, and then the Course in Miracles says a holy relationship is an expression of that holy instant in a drawn-out kind of way, right? He says the holy relationship is an expression of the holy instant in time. So a holy relationship is a relationship where we have that awareness and we're trying to act out of that truth more and more frequently.
So we have to experience what love is not in order to really experience what love is.
Yes, and we've got the what is love not part down.
Right.
You know, yeah,
Right.
we know that. It's basically everything we've been doing that has, it's all the so-called love we've experienced that, you know, the Course says a special relationship is a relationship that is full of anger, guilt, grievances, pain, and suffering broken into by short times in which the suffering seems to be absent. That's what the Course calls a special relationship or an ego-dominated relationship or an ego-love relationship. It's full of anger, guilt, grievances, suffering, and pain broken into by periods in which we just seem to be having a good time. We seem to be loving each other.
For a short.
For a weekend. Out of town. That's what my ego tells me. You can only have peace and love if you're away from the house for a whole weekend. That's the only time you can be happy with each other for 3 days straight. Okay, thank you for sharing, ego. So, okay. So now it says, here's the good news. And this does answer what you were saying, Billy, you know, it does speak to that. It says, love will enter immediately into any mind which truly wants it. So this speaks to your question, Billy. Okay, so the mind that truly wants real love, it's there. When you say, I would like to know what real love would think or do or say or feel in this situation, what would real love do? And you really want it, it will enter immediately. I like the immediately part. But, there's a little caveat. But the mind must want that love truly. Okay, what does that mean, to want that love truly? It means that the mind wants the love. This means that the mind wants the love without ambivalence. For just an instant, I want real love. I want to experience what real love is for a moment, that I've got to want love without ambivalence. What does that mean, to want love without ambivalence? It means wanting love without the ego's drive to get. Okay.
Right, and the ego's definition of love, which is like what is so familiar to
Yes.
us all.
Yes. Yeah, the ego's definition of love is
So
what I can
our
get.
minds, so this is love, but you have to surrender all that.
It's saying, okay, if I want love, real love, and I really want it, that means for a moment I'm asking for real love without any desire to get. I want to experience love without, like, I want this love because it'll get me da-da-da-da-da. I want their love because it will give me da-da-da. Right? Wanting real love is wanting a love without any drive to get. I just want to experience real love. I want to experience love. Not, I want love so that I can feel better, or feel more important, or feel more special, or get my needs met. Right? So there's one like, oh, I want love. But you're really saying, I want my needs met. Please, somebody meet my needs. I'm so lonely. I'm so afraid. I feel so unsupported. I want some love. That's not love. That's that's begging. That is begging for somebody to give you what you have rejected in yourself. Okay? Now, apparently asking for real love, if you want real love, honey, if you want it for real, it'll enter immediately to your mind. But when you want real love, it's, I want to experience what love is. What is love? I want to experience whatever love is. See the difference?
Well, one's codependence, the other's co-creation.
One is, what is real love? The other one is, please someone meet my needs. Please someone meet my needs. That's what we're saying underneath it. But on the surface, we're like, oh, I just want some love. I just want someone to love me. I just want someone to love. If only. You're not asking for love.
Well, I think beyond our wishes to get, our biggest trouble there, our ambivalence is our fear of it.
Yes,
If you can for a moment not be afraid of love, then it can come.
exactly.
But mostly, while we're asking for it, we're still frightened of it.
Yes, we are.
We can suspend our fear
Yeah.
momentarily.
Thank you for saying that, because why is it that we wouldn't just go, yeah, I just want love. I just want to know I'm loved. I want to know love is all there is. I want to know they are only love. I just want love. Why is it that we don't just, oh, I can do that, great, and do it immediately? Because we believe that because we don't know we all love, and because we don't know we're connected with our creative source, then we believe that we're lacking inside, and then we believe that if we don't get somebody to meet our needs, our needs won't get met. They won't get met. If you don't know your love, and you don't know you're connected to the source of love, you will always feel empty. You will always feel like something's missing. You will always feel like there's something incomplete, and you will always project that feeling of incompletion onto someone else or to something else. That's why the holy relationship, the real relationship, is a relationship where two people have looked within and seen no lack. And then they reach out to celebrate that with someone else, because it makes it more fun. It increases the joy.
But the ego tells you that will be unfamiliar and uncomfortable and nothing that you know, and therefore
That's exactly right.
it will kill you.
Thank you. Yeah, what he said. And that's exactly what I was getting to when I got a little sidetracked, is that the reason that we don't just ask for love is because we have convinced ourselves through the ego that if we don't get from others, we will not have. If I don't make someone feel guilty enough to fulfill my expectations and fulfill my needs, I won't have anybody. I will be alone, and I won't have anybody meeting my needs, and my needs won't get met. And that's what our ego has taught us. That's what we taught our ego, and that's what our ego now teaches us. And so we're like, well, I don't want to just say I ask for peace, I ask for love, because if I don't project my needs on other people and push them on other people, they won't get met. Because I'm empty from inside.
So we have to have that as a form of security.
That's right. That's exactly right. The Course says that we don't know that perfect love is in us. And that is our biggest, greatest handicap. So, the Course says we're all handicapped.
And the world teaches us religiously that we have to be persecuted to be redeemed, or
Yes. We have to lose to get love.
Right, and that totally is completely short circuits the idea that love is available, and because you wouldn't even ask for something like that.
That's
because
right.
it would be blasphemy.
Exactly.
You can't be good until you're bad. It's like you have to be
Right,
bad first
yeah.
in order to be good.
Exactly. And we've learned, same thing here, you can't have love without loss. In other words, I can't have love, in quotes, I can't have my so-called love without somebody else losing. You know, I can't have love without somebody else sacrificing for me. And, you know, and they've learned the same thing. So here we are, we're getting together because we love each other. We're in love. But we're both defining love as a demand. We're both defining love as who will sacrifice to meet my demands and do it just with me. You know, when we say, oh, we're in love. Oh, look, we love each other. That's what we're really meaning. Oh, I finally found somebody who will sacrifice to meet my demands and only do it with me. Now, do you promise that you will not sacrifice to meet the demands of anybody else? You promise? I do. I do. We now pronounce you misery loves company. All right.
I'm thinking that this is the love-hate relationship
Indeed.
amongst people
Indeed.
is actually the really challenging aspect of choosing the ego thought system over the Holy Spirit's.
Absolutely.
If we could consistently choose the Holy Spirit's thought system, having unconditional love for another human being would be a lot easier.
Absolutely. That's why I was saying earlier about that's why the core should be discovering and experiencing and running to our relationship with our creative source. And that should be our number one answer, number one goal all the time. Instead of wasting our time running to get love from other people, we should be, when we feel lonely or incomplete or in pain or afraid, run to our relationship with our creative source. To remember and to feel that love that has no drive to get in it. The love that's coming from our creative source is completely without the drive to get. The love that's coming from God is not, oh, well, I'll love you if you go to church on Sunday, and if you follow my commandments perfectly, and if you don't wear a short skirt on Sunday to church, and on, you know, the 10 Commandments is a lie. That's the short version. So when, you know, the love that comes from our creative source has no ambivalence, no drive to get. It is freely given, unconditionally, forever. And if, just like you're saying, Matt, if we knew about that love, if we experienced that love, and the relationship we're in with that love, then there'd be no problem. We would be able to love other people like that, or at least more like that. Because of my relationship with my creative source that the Course in Miracles helped me to discover and to utilize, I'm able to better love other people like God does. I'm not perfect at it, but I'm getting better at it. And it's made a big difference in my life. And each time if I can't get to it immediately with that person, I'm better able to get to that kind of love sooner than I used to.
I like what he says in Conversations with God. He says, I never commanded anybody to do anything. I don't know where they got that at.
Yeah, exactly. Gee, I wonder where we came up with the God full of commandments. Could it be a projection? The Course says we have absolutely, totally, like he says, we blame the ego for our will to separate, and we project it onto the ego. And we've done the same thing with God. You know, now God has all these commandments, and now God is rejecting, and now God has all these expectations, and God is judgmental, and, you know, God's like, you got to do this to show your love for me. Gee, I wonder where we got that from. Let's see, where does that sound familiar? Why does that sound familiar? Because that's exactly how I am. I say, if you love me, then you would come home on time every night. If you loved me, you would change for me.
So we created a God based on how we feel, and we project those feelings onto God.
Exactly. We made the ego, and instead of going, wow, I made this insane ego that hates me, I projected it onto God.
And everything's God's fault.
And isn't that special? And everything's God's fault. Why did God make such a horrible world? Why did God make a world where children could die? God must be horrible. Now I'm either going to become a martyr or an atheist. That's what the Course says. If you believe God had anything to do with this crazy world where children can die, then you have only two options. To become a martyr, oh God, I'm doing this for God, or an atheist. If God had anything to do with this, screw God. That's your two options. If you believe God had anything to do with a world where children can die. Wow. Let's see, which category do you fall into? Yeah, it depends on the day. Some days I'm a martyr. Why is God doing this to me? And some days I'm an atheist. God who? I'm both. Isn't that special? All right.
Well, God was taught, during a critical time in history was taught, that's what secularism is God was used as a tool for control.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
We still have not unlearned that.
No. Yeah, exactly.
Might not be burning witches, but
Exactly.
it's almost as bad.
The Course quotes a biblical quote and then reinterprets it, and it says that, that the Bible speaks of a deep sleep that fell upon Adam. And nowhere in the Old Testament is there any reference to his waking up. And he says, that no comprehensive reawakening has occurred yet, but that's what's happening now. And then in the original edition, the Voice of the Course refers to that as the speed up. At least that's the connection I'm making here. That comprehensive reawakening of Adam, meaning us, the Son of God who is us, that's what's occurring. That's what's occurring. And it's occurring with a greater speed now because there's a greater urgency. Now, as the speed up and that comprehensive reawakening starts speeding up, how do you think the collective ego is going to be responding?
Like a cat.
Like the ego is going. It's one thing when our comprehensive reawakening was going at a snail's pace, correct?
Mm-hmm.
When our awakening, because of our global connectivity, it was easy for our global awakening to go at a snail's pace up before there was global connectivity. But now that there's global connectivity, the comprehensive reawakening is like, It's speeding up. You can imagine how the ego might be reacting. The ego who's been global domination for all this time. The ego's been in control of our planet, obviously. Let's see, what would be happening on a planet that the ego had been in control of for thousands and millions of years?
Seeing chaos.
What might it look like? What might be happening on a planet like that? Let's see. Well, maybe, I don't know, maybe the inhabitants are so insanely destroying their planet, right? Okay, so an ego, a collective ego that has been able to dominate a planet for millennia, all of a sudden, the inhabitants of that planet are awakening faster. How do you think that global ego is going to respond?
Fearfully.
Very defensively. To the point where you may see this massive polarization between the darkness and the light. And when I look at the planet at this time, that is what I see.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that is what I see. That's just my particular perception, vision. But this is, what we're doing right here speeds up the comprehensive reawakening of Adam, meaning us.
Because that separation that you see, you want to see with perfect love.
That's right.
Yeah.
Is exactly right. When you perceive perfect love, real love, that you experience in connection with your creative source, then perfect love undoes the belief in separation. And it's the belief in separation that has been destroying our planet and us. All right. Okay. Why don't we stop here for tonight, and we'll pick up where we left off next week. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for your financial expressions of appreciation. I do appreciate them. This is what I do for a living, part of it. And it also supports this wonderful, miraculous center. Thank you, God, for the center. So don't forget that you can find all my classes online at annakujawa.com. Not at my website. You can find all my classes online on YouTube. You just put in my name, and there's all my classes for free. I also do Course in Miracles readings, where I'm just reading course to music. And it's called Lullaby Course, and you'll find it on my YouTube channel as well. And people report them, and I experience them too. It's just very, very healing, very powerful healing devices. Also, if you'd like to learn more about my holistic counseling ministry, you can go to my website, annakujawa.com. I do something called Miracle Psychotherapuetic sessions, where I take the principles of the Course and combine them with traditional counseling. I'm a professional counselor, to produce miracles. So just know that that's available, and you can find more out about that on my website, annakujawa.com. All righty. Any other questions or comments before we do our integration meditation? All right. Okay. So I always do an integration meditation after my class, and that is where we go within and we just apply what we've heard, so that it's the Course says it's the use of the ideas that give them meaning to you. No matter how compellingly I may have spoken, it's your use that gives them meaning to you and brings them to life for you. So we have a period where we try to use them. So what I want you to do is close your eyes. And I want you to just tune into how you feel right now. How do you feel right now, having heard these ideas tonight? And how does it feel to have heard them with others, in a circle of other people? And how does it feel to hear these ideas with the remembrance of the global mind, the one self that we share? For a moment, just feel that connectivity. Feel your connectedness that is reality. Our connectedness is our reality, and it is our life. And it is our protection. And it is our joy. And so let's remember our connectedness. Let's feel it. And let's use it. Beautiful. Now I want you to bring to your awareness a situation either today or in your recent past. A situation where there was conflict or pain or fear. Anything that wasn't peaceful and wasn't loving. A situation where there was fear and conflict and pain. And I want you to bring that situation or relationship to your memory, to your awareness right now. And I just want you to take note of the details and the emotions and if there's a pattern associated with it, is there familiarity with it? Beautiful. Now I want you to imagine yourself looking into this situation, this conflict. And I want you to look within it to see if you can identify any unloving thoughts about yourself. Where are the unloving thoughts about yourself hiding in the folds of the complexities of this problem? Because remember, this problem is being generated by the part of you that doesn't love you. What you might call your own self-hatred. And we're looking for the thoughts, they're usually underneath the blame of others, that goes something like, what's wrong with me? I hate myself. There's something missing in me. I'm missing something. I'm a failure. I'm inadequate. I want you to look inside this problem and look for the self-hating thoughts or beliefs. I'm unlovable. I'm unloving. See if you can identify the self-hating thoughts of the ego that have produced this problem. This problem is not an accident. The Course calls it an evil flower. once you've identified the ego thoughts, the thoughts of the part of you that doesn't love you, I want you in your mind's eye to step back from this problem. And I want you to turn within. Turn within to the stately calm within you, where you return back into the unconditionally loving relationship you are in with your creative source. And ask your creative source, the mind you came from, to tell you of its love for you. And then listen and feel. Feel for its love. Feel for its unconditional love, its perfect love for you. And if you really want to go for it, see if you can feel for your unconditional love for it. And see if you can feel that perfect love flowing between you and your creative source. Because that is what's really going on. And that is the real relationship you are in with your creative source. Perfect love moving between you and your source. And breathe that in. Feel the real relationship you are in, the unconditionally loving relationship you are in with your source. Your source knows you and loves you. Your source hasn't forgotten you, nor have you forgotten it. Feel the unconditionally loving relationship you are in now and forever. Feel for it. Open your mind to it. Open your heart to it. And let that feeling heal you. Let it heal your sense of separateness. Let it heal your false grievances. Let it heal your sense of isolation and loneliness. Let it heal you of your belief in lack and loss. There is no lack in this love. There is not even any death in this love. Feel it and let it heal you. And breathe it in. Your breath enables you to take that feeling and anchor it and rewire your brain with it. For just a few moments more, feel a love that you are in, that contains no lack, no loss, and no death. Beautiful. And now, take this feeling of this love moving between you and your creative source, and I want you to extend that love or project that love to someone on the planet that you know needs that love, that has forgotten about the loving relationship they are in. Project that love to them. That's the correct use of projection. Send it to them. See it moving to them and enfolding them in it. And then while you're at it, see if you can project this loving relationship onto the planet itself. See it surrounding the planet in light. We are remembering for the planet, for everyone in and on the planet. We are remembering for them the real and lasting, loving relationship we are in with our creative source. And we remember it for them. Beautiful. And then when you're ready, just begin to bring your awareness back to the room, back to your body. Whew. Remembering that you can return to this holy relationship within, this oasis of healing and abundance within, anytime, anywhere, for free. All right, you guys, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you guys out there in YouTube land also for joining. Thank you. I appreciate you guys being here, and may the course be with you.